Hey guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Laura, for those of you that do not know, and today's video is going to be my summer reading wrap-up, and I'm actually really excited to do this video because it has come highly requested from you guys to just do wrap-up videos in general. You guys always want to see what I'm reading and whether I liked it or whether I didn't like it, so I decided to maybe start doing these seasonally, seeing how this one goes. If you guys enjoy it, then I'll do them moving forward, so like a fall wrap-up, a winter wrap-up, etc. So I hope that kind of format is okay with you guys. I'm really excited to share with you guys the books that I read. Some of them I absolutely loved, so I'm so excited to share them. Others I didn't like as much, but we'll definitely get into it. I'm counting summer, by the way, as June, July, August. I know technically, at least where I live in the United States, summer is still for a few more weeks and it's a little bit different. It's not just like the months. That's just kind of how I'm configuring it in my head to make it easier. So June, July, August, these are the books that I read during those months. I'm only going to be talking about new books that I read and not rereads because I constantly go back and reread books that I love. So I read 12 new novels over the summer. Those are going to be the ones that I'm sharing with you in this video. So let's just get started and I'm going to share with you guys the books. The first book on my list is called Without You. It's by Marlee Valentine. This is the first book that I had read by this author, and it was a gay romance between a man and his deceased brother's ex-boyfriend. So crazy, but basically his brother dies and his brother's boyfriend is kind of like in mourning. They've been together a really long time, but the two of them kind of find solace in each other, the fact that they both have a mutual loss, and while they're kind of trying to deny their relationship and like act like they aren't interested in each other, because obviously that's so wrong, secretly they both just have this mutual want for one another, and it's super kind of taboo because like it shouldn't be happening, but it is. The other one has never had attraction towards a man, so he's like confused. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't like an all-time new favorite, however I really enjoyed it for what it was. I loved the aspect of this kind of unconventional romance happening. I love that kind of build of like two people that aren't supposed to be together being together, and that's definitely what we got out of this book. So for that reason, I would recommend it to you guys if that sounds interesting. Also, it's always great to find more diverse reads, so having this male book is really something that I wanted to share with you guys. So really good. Hope you guys will check that one out. The next book that I read is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by MARIANA ZAPATA, I think it is. This book I loved so much. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars as well. This follows a girl who is an assistant to a very famous football player, and he is kind of super broody and doesn't really show any like thankfulness for all that she does for him. So she ends up quitting her job, and that's kind of where the book starts out. This was such a fun romance to read, and I will tell you guys, it is the slowest of slow burns out there. You do not know slow burn until you have read this book. If you're a fan of that, I definitely recommend checking it out. If you haven't read slow burn before, or if it's not your favorite, this book might not give you what you want, just because when I tell you slow burn, it's just like, it drags out. To me, I love it. I love how things drag out, and just like, it's so like you're on your toes the whole time waiting for something to happen. But if that's not you, if you like more of a like quick insta love thing, that's definitely not this book. So keep that in mind. But I really loved this story. I loved the characters, and it definitely became one of my new favorites. The next book that I read is Asher by CARIAN. This is the 6th book in the Ashes and Embers series, and I love this series. The first book, Storm, is one of my all-time favorites. So I read this whole series like early quarantine, and then this one happened to come out during the summer, so I obviously read it, and I really was excited for this book because Asher, the character that this book follows, is a character that's super prevalent in the whole series, so I was excited for him to finally have his book. However, it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. I gave the book 3 out of 5 stars. I still did enjoy it. However, I was just hoping for the story to go in a different direction than what it did. I'm not going to share too much about it because I don't want to spoil, but the whole series follows a bunch of relatives who are in a band together, and they all have separate romances, separate books. So this one is Asher's. If you've read the series, or if you've even read the spin-off series that has Torn, he's featured in that as well. So this is a character that's like super important, so I was excited for the book. It was a little bit of a letdown. I still liked it, but it wasn't my favorite. So 3 out of 5 stars. I still really recommend the series, and I really love it a lot. So yeah. Next up is another book that had a new release in its series, and that is Teacher by Fiona Cole. This is the 6th book in the Voyeur series, and it's the final book as well, so I was super excited to finally get to read this. This book actually ended up being one of my new favorites in this series. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. If you haven't heard of the series, it's really, really great. It's companion novels, so kind of like the last series, it all follows different couples each book, and the 2 characters in this book had been in the series a little bit previously, so I was excited to hear more about their stories and kind of how their romance happens. For a little bit of a synopsis, this book deals with a girl who has very extreme PTSD because of something that happened in her past, and she meets this man who kind of helps her to live through her trauma and kind of get through it. And that's kind of the basic synopsis. I don't want to give too much away, but the Voyeur series is so fun. I love every single book in the series, but this one is definitely a new favorite of mine, so definitely check it out. It's really, really great. The next book that I read is The Dare by Elle Kennedy. This is the 4th and final book in the Briar U series, which is the off-campus spin-off series. I can't believe it's over. It's so crazy. I didn't think that like 2 years ago when I started off-campus this would be the result, but here we are. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I really, really loved it. Again, I don't want to spoil too much with all these books that I'm reading that are like the final in the series. Obviously, I don't want to give too much away. But the reason I rated the book so high is because it was just sentimental, I feel like, because it was the final book. I just really enjoyed reading it. I also highly resonated with the main character of this book, Taylor. I really felt her on a lot of levels. I feel like when I can relate to the main character, I just enjoy the book 10 times more. So because of that, I think I really enjoyed this one. But I love the whole Briar U series and Off Campus. They're all really, really great, and I don't dislike any of them. So the 5-star rating, I think, was in place. But yeah, if you still haven't read the series, I don't know what you're doing. You definitely need to. If you've only read Off Campus and you haven't read Briar U, you need to read Briar U. It's so good. Next book on my list is Love Unexpected by QB Tyler. This was a super taboo book about a girl who falls for her stepfather. So crazy, but I actually ended up really enjoying this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I have read QB Tyler's books in the past and I've always really loved them. They're always so fun, so steamy, and I always love her characters. They're just written so great, so full of life. So this book was no different than the past ones. I really enjoyed it. It is a little bit insta-lovey. Things did happen a little fast. However, I don't think every single book needs to have like tragic backstory and insane character building. Sometimes books are just meant to be fun, and that's kind of what I got out of this one. I really enjoyed it. It was fast-paced, and it's a little crazy, but it was definitely fun while it lasted, and for that reason I really recommend it. I feel like if you want something different, something that kind of shocks you a little bit, takes you a little bit to get used to, it was fun, so I recommend it for that reason. Next book on my list is Him by LL Ash. This is a book that was actually recommended to me by one of you guys, so thank you very much if you're out there. Again, I know you are. Thank you. I really loved this book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I loved the plot and I loved how it all happened. The writing wasn't my favorite, I think, which is why I gave it a little bit of a lower score. I should probably state that 3 or above stars means that I really liked the book and there was like minimal problems with it. If we're getting into 2-star territory, that means there was problems with the book. So 3 stars means that I still really enjoyed the book. I think that the writing style wasn't my absolute favorite, which is kind of why I didn't give it 4 stars, but I still really loved the story. This dealt with a girl who falls for her best friend's dad. They actually go live with her dad for their school semester. They're starting college, and she had never met him before. There's this like instant chemistry, kind of serving Birthday Girl a little bit with the instant chemistry, which I really love. I love characters that kind of play off each other and like have this tension, and it builds and builds and builds until it like hits a certain point. That's definitely what we got out of this book, so I really liked it for that reason. It was fun, but yeah, the writing just wasn't my absolute favorite. It was a little bit childish at points, but I mean, I still enjoyed the story, so for that reason, I would still recommend it to you guys. Next is The Pool Boy by NIKKI Sloane. This is a book that I also really enjoyed, and I gave 4 out of 5 stars. NIKKI Sloane is an author that I've read so many of her books, maybe almost all of them, and I've enjoyed all of them that I've read. This one deals with a woman who, after going through a divorce, ends up having a crush on her pool boy, who's also her best friend's younger son. He's in his 20s, she's like 40 or something like that, so it's a bit of an age gap. I really love the reversal of age gap when the woman is older. I feel like it's not written as much, so when I find a book like that, I think it's really fun to read. So I really liked it. I loved how the romance progressed. I thought it was really natural, and I don't know, I just really like Nikki Sloane's writing style, so that paired with the story really made it a great read, so I recommend it. Next book was probably my biggest disappointment of the summer, and it is called Our Way, and it's by T.L. Swan, who is an author that I have previously loved and read and recommended to you guys. However, this book was my breaking point, and I actually only made it 75% into the book, but it's such a long book that I marked it as read. Like, it took me so long to read the 75%, I couldn't even believe there was still more book to read. And at that rate, I was just getting so frustrated with the characters, I couldn't continue on. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars, maybe even 1.5. I did enjoy it at the start though, which is why it was so devastating for me to DNF it, because I was like genuinely so mad that the characters took such a foul turn. This book is about 2 best friends who both work at a health facility, and they become best friends because they both start work on the same day. So the plot of this book, it's kind of weird. Like, they're supposed to be best friends and they're so compatible together. 10 years go by of them just having a super platonic friendship, but everyone is low-key like they would be so good together, except for the fact that the guy is gay. So he likes guys, he doesn't have any serious relationships. He had one serious relationship, and then he just kind of hooks up with people. And the girl character always has had like this little crush on him, but obviously doesn't do anything about it, knowing that he's only interested in guys. So where the book takes off is where he starts to have these weird feelings for her, and he doesn't understand them because he's never been attracted to a woman before. So that's kind of the plot, I guess, and then they end up kind of slowly getting together. It's not a spoiler. Also, I just don't recommend the book, so I'm just gonna say this. They get together, and immediately I hated the book. Like, they were so annoying together. He was so controlling, so manipulative, like the worst person ever. I got so frustrated with this character. He was like constantly lying to her, borderline cheated on her one time and like doesn't tell her about it. Like, it was just kind of ridiculous. And I've noticed a pattern before in T.L. Swan's books where the men are slightly manipulative and like have these little things about them that have always bothered me, but I've been able to look over because I like the rest of the book. However, in this book, it was so prominent and so frustrating that I just couldn't finish the book. He was just so immature, so possessive of her. I couldn't deal with it. It was too much. So I didn't finish the book. I would love to hear if any of you guys read and enjoyed the book. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get through it. It was making me so angry. So I DNF'd at 75%. So this is my least favorite book that I read this summer. I don't know. I wanted to like it, but the plot was just like not killing it. Also, the way that they kind of talked about sexuality and the idea of like him liking girls now, and he always thought he was gay. It was just not talked about in a good manner, and I just couldn't really get behind it. So for those reasons, yeah, like 1.5, 2 stars. Would not recommend this book, unfortunately. But if you guys want to read it and let me know your thoughts, be my guest. Next book I read is kind of more of a short story, and it's called Can I Come Over by Whitney G. I think it's kind of like a novella. It's pretty short. This story just kind of followed 2 people who end up meeting online one day, and they form a friendship from that. They live across the country from each other, so they just kind of message each other here and there, but they never really tell each other who they actually are. And so one day they decide to finally meet in person, and the girl realizes that it's actually her dad's best friend. And so that's kind of crazy and unexpected. She doesn't have a super close relationship with her dad, so she barely knows him, but she knows that it's her dad's friend. So it's immediately kind of awkward. So yeah, it kind of goes from there. She goes out to see him, and it's short. It's just like a fun little story. It's not super in-depth or anything like that, and it's probably takes you an hour to read. Like, it's one of those. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Again, it wasn't anything that blew my mind. It was very short. When I started it, I don't think I realized it was a novella, but I just decided to read the whole thing because obviously it didn't take that long. So I'd recommend it if you want something fun and short, but other than that, it really didn't offer me much. So 3 out of 5 stars I feel like was a fair rating. Okay guys, the next book is probably my favorite one that I read during the summer, and it is called Bad Boys Break Hearts, and it's by Michaela Schmelzer. I know I'm saying her name wrong. I actually like confirmed recently that I'm saying it wrong and I still don't remember how to say it correctly, so for that reason I'm sorry. But she wrote Sweet Dandelion, which is a book that I read during the spring and I absolutely loved. I saw this book on Goodreads and I decided to just randomly give it a go and I ended up falling in love with it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Don't get me wrong, this book isn't perfect by any means. In fact, you know, it has cringy moments, it's a little bit like predictable, but I just loved it so much. This is an enemies to lovers book about 2 people who were best friends when they were younger, but the girl has to move away across the country. The boy kind of never forgives her for it, doesn't realize why she moved away, and they meet years later when they go to the same college, and they do not get off on the right foot. But it goes from there. It's so good. I don't know what it is about this book, but the romance was just my favorite. Like my favorite that I've read in so long. I haven't been this obsessed with a book couple in a hot second. So I highly recommend this book. I loved it so, so much. I want to hear what you guys think about it. Again, like I said, it's not like the best book ever, but for some reason, I just really loved it so much, so I would love for you guys to check it out. The last book that I read is called The Anti-Boyfriend by Penelope Ward. This is actually a new release. It came out last week, and it is the last book that I read during the summer season. This book is about a girl who is a single mother, and one day she's in her apartment and her baby won't stop crying, so her next door neighbor comes over to kind of see what's going on, and he holds the baby and the baby stops crying miraculously, and they kind of form this friendship from there on out. And so this just kind of continues and it becomes kind of like a friends to lovers romance. I really, really liked the book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really great writing. I love Penelope Ward. I love all of her books, but I just thought the plot was a bit predictable and it wasn't anything really new. So for that reason, the 3 stars kind of felt right. I mean, obviously like the last book I just talked about, that's nothing new, but for some reason I just loved it so much. This book I also loved, but I just felt like there wasn't anything super standout-ish about it. However, I still really enjoyed the story. I love books that have babies in them. That's just like one of my favorite things. I love like the single parent trope. So if you're into that, you'll definitely like this book. But other than that, it was just kind of like another romance book, but I still loved it. I still would recommend it. So for that reason, 3 out of 5 stars, but yeah, check it out if you want. So those are all of the books that I read during summer 2020. Honestly, it doesn't feel like a lot now, but I also did reread a lot of random books throughout the summer, so I spent time doing that. I go through phases where I like read 5 books a week and then like I don't read anything for weeks, so kind of random, but I want to hear what you guys' favorite books were this summer. I need some recommendations from you guys, so let me know. Also, let me know if you read any of the same books as me and what you thought about them. I would love to hear about that. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you did and subscribe to my channel if you've not already. You can also follow me on my social medias linked down below. Check out my Wattpad story that I haven't posted a new update on in a week or 2, but you can still read it down below. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you very, very soon in my next one. Bye!